Hello and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another potluck wrap up. This is where I put all the books that I have read over the previous year, months, days, etc. into a teapot. I take them out at random and I have no idea what I'm going to be talking about when it comes to my wrap up until I've already pulled it out and it's too late and we're in it together. My name is Hannah. It has been a hot minute since I have done one of these. Something's going to change. Something needs to change because I've been so under the weather and working so relentlessly. I'm just generally really struggling with life. It has meant that there are quite a few titles in this teapot. Here's what I did. I took out all of the books that I have already talked about in my best and worst of the year. Took them out. If you want to go watch those videos and know what I thought about those books, great. I've read them. Those are my thoughts. I then also took out all the books that I had read for my Patreon because, again, did a video about it. Link will be down below. Watch it, hear thoughts, etc. So now I only have about 50 books in here, and usually I give myself 20 minutes so that I don't waffle, right? The idea is that if I put a timer on it, I am forced to think quickly about things to say about those books. And that's great right up until I either repeat myself, I do waffle and I have to edit it out, or something happens like my cat attacking me or someone knocking on the door, as is so often the way. You don't actually get 20 minutes of content and I'll be like, I'm going to be talking for 20 minutes and then it's like 11 and it's just a bit, it's full, right? It's a waffle full time. Bearing in mind how many books are in here, some of which have been in here since this time last year, terrifying, I'm going to pick 10 books to talk about. Instead of putting a timer on it, I'm putting a limit on it. I'm going to talk about the first 10 books that I pull from this. And then if I can unhaul some, I absolutely will, because the baskets that I keep my read books in until I've wrapped them up for you, I need a trolley is what I actually need. And it's too many. It's too many and it's too much. Without any more waffle, because I've said the word waffle so many times, it's lost all meaning now. We'll start with the good bit. One of these days I am just going to chip that straight off, but in the meantime, it sounds so good. The first of 10 that I'm going to be talking about today is Felix Ever After, which was a January of this year read. I firstly want to apologise for two things. One, my cat. I'd like to apologise for the sheer carnage. There are teeth marks, scratch marks, and all sorts of this very pretty stenciled edge copy. In fact, I can show you teeth marks. Apparently, when I don't pay attention to my cat, he takes it out on my books. Not ideal. The second thing I want to apologise for is not reading this book sooner, because I feel like I would have enjoyed this book more if I had. This is a YA contemporary LGBT book that has trans rep, bisexuality rep, a whole diaspora of black and brown characters. Really interesting modern take on microaggressions, not just when it comes to racism, but transphobia as well. It's a really well crafted, really interesting book. The main plot of which is essentially Felix is the main character, is trans and kind of working through their trans identity. In the meantime, falling in love with multiple people, being bullied by certain people, struggling with their relationship with their dad, struggling at school, and a variety of other things that accumulate and culminate in Felix understanding who they are at the end and expressing that through beautiful portraits. This would have been a 5-star read had I been the target audience when it first came out, which I was, and unfortunately I let it sit for, let's just check, let's see how long I let this sit on my shelf for. 5 years. This sat on my shelf for 5 years, and during those 5 years I have read a variety of things that are far more adult in more ways than one, and that unfortunately made it a me problem as to why I didn't like this book. All of those things I've just described make this a spectacularly well-written, well-crafted contemporary. 10 out of 10 across the board, can't fault it. My problem is, spoilers, feel free to skip, Felix is in love with their best friend. Fine, we can see it from a mile away. In love with the best friend, everyone's like, oh my god, they should be a couple, and Felix is like, no, we're just friends. Like the whole time they're like that. They then basically think that their enemy, whose name I think is Elliot, I literally just read this and I've already forgotten. I'm terrible with names. Declan. He thinks Declan has done this really transphobic thing of sharing their photos pre-transition from their old Instagram. Now it isn't Declan, and we find out very quickly that it isn't Declan, and in the meantime Felix is messaging Declan under a pseudonym, and Declan is slowly falling in love with them, and Felix is slowly falling in love with Declan. And this is where it lost me. Because if this had been an adult novel, one of two things would happen. Either some real steamy, fun stuff could have happened and they could have had a mature step away from it, would have been great. Or, why choose? That could have been a trope in this book, and it wasn't, because Felix does choose. And the thing that really irked me is Declan has done nothing wrong. The whole way through, we see Felix coming to understand that Declan is in a very similar shitty situation as Felix is. Not being accepted by members of their family, struggling financially, struggling in the city, struggling to make friends. All of these different things that Felix experiences, Declan understands and is like on board with. And then they go to Declan's granddad's house, they spend a really nice weekend together, and Declan essentially tries to sexually assault Felix. Felix is not ready to have sex, and Declan tries to instigate sex on several different instances, making him the villain and giving Felix a legitimate reason to walk away from that situation without having to worry about hurting Declan's feelings, because Declan has clearly still got stuff he needs to deal with. And the reason this bothered me is because the reason Declan does this isn't because he's a sexual predator, but because, even though you do those things, you are that thing, but because he is still in love with the best friend who Felix is also in love with. Why choose? Okay, because we've heard from the very start of the book that the best friend is still in love with Declan, that the best friend didn't understand why Declan broke up with them in the first place, and turns out Declan broke up with them because he knew that the best friend was in love with Felix. Declan is now also in love with Felix, and Felix is in love with them both. Why not just all be together? What's the TikTok meme that's like, I want two boyfriends and I want my boyfriends to be boyfriends? Like that, the whole time the thing started falling apart and the romantic stuff became the forefront narrative. That's the only sound I could hear in my head is, I want my boyfriends to be boyfriends. The whole time I thought, Felix is such a mess. Like, they make terrible choices, they're completely misguided, they've got a massive temper they need to deal with. Like, we love a messy character. We love a messy character. But Felix, please. And I just feel like if the best friend and Declan were also in like a throuple, so that was a little disappointing. And I feel like the main issue with this book is not the book, it's me. And it's my interpretation of what I thought the actions should be and how contrived I felt the sexual assault was. And it didn't ring true or authentic to me that is how Declan would behave, considering the stuff that he has on the line and the fact that he cares about Felix and the best friend so much. Irked and disappointed. So it only lost a star. It didn't even lose a full star. It got 4.5 stars because I know that the only problem with this book is me. I'm very aware of the fact. And if you can recommend me a book that feels and reads like Felix Ever After, except all three of them get together and live happily ever after, please let me know, because clearly it was just something that I needed this book to do that it didn't do. And again, I would like to formally apologise for the absolute state my cat has made of this book. One down, what's up next? Okay, next is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. Thornhedge was the first book that Zach gifted to me as my boyfriend and not just as an apology as a friend. And this is a very short retelling of the Sleeping Beauty myth with this really cute little toad goblin main character that I just adored. What I really, really liked about this, and I will be short and sweet about this because the book is short and sweet, is I really liked the fae aspect. Wasn't your standard tropey SJM style fae anymore. This was, she grew up in a swamp, changeling style, with really dark, insidious magic. I really felt like those moments where we were skipping in time and moving through eons and epochs, it felt that way without it being tedious. Really, really liked this. This was one of the ones where it really set my standards for what I expect T. Kingfisher's writing to be, which is why when I've read some of their others that weren't as good, I've been doubly disappointed, because I really, really loved this. And I feel like if you're not a fantasy fan and you're always like, oh, people are always telling me to read books with dragons in it and I'm just not interested, a really quick, short read like this may give you that kind of magic that your friends are trying to recommend to you, but on a far more palatable pace, and it feels very authentic because it's a very it's all the conflict is quite internalized, considering it's a classic high fantasy. But really, really enjoyed it. Really, really special to me, and I'm so glad I liked it, because there's nothing worse than being gifted a book and then hating it. So thank you very much, Zach. I loved it. Okay, book 3. Harrow the Ninth. Now, this one I did via audiobook, so I don't own a copy of this, and I'll be honest, I think I picked it up because it was a specific prompt for Gothtober, and not because I really had much interest in coming back to this series. Whilst I did enjoy Gideon the Ninth, I didn't have the emotional attachment to the narrative that I was kind of expecting to have, considering the cult following that it has. With Harrow the Ninth, it really took me a long time to have a clue what was going on, and then even when I did kind of understand it, I feel like I'm going to need to read it 4 or 5 more times with an annotation, notebook, etc., to really kind of get into what on earth is going on, because everything is happening at once. Lot is happening at once. Lots of thoughts and feelings and violence. Villains and antagonists from the first book being essential to survival in book 2. There was just a lot going on, and because of that, it left me very confused. I did not enjoy it, but I still don't know if I'm attached enough to this series to purchase it. So we're gonna do Nona, and that's what I'm gonna make the decision on, because I did enjoy both Gideon and Harry the Ninth, but how can I recommend a book to you when I have no idea how to explain what happens? Like, it's not even that there was no plot in this, couldn't explain it to you. I don't know what happened. I know I enjoyed it. I know that it was a wild ride. That's all I've got to go on. Okay, book number 4. Like a Curse by Elle McNichols. So this is the second in the Magical Duology by Elle McNichols. This is a middle grade about a young witch who is kind of stuck in one place. Essentially, she finds out that sirens are coming in the first book, and that they are taking over politically. And in the second book, she is kind of learning to manage her magic and her expectations and her feelings. What I really, really like about these books, other than the obvious neurodivergent rep, which is in every Elle McNichols book, and is so well thought through, is the fact that this is fundamentally a family drama. There are siblings and aunts and all sorts of dynamics, female specific, in this book that really explore what pressures we put on certain family members to be okay in situations where they are obviously not okay. And I really, really enjoy when middle grades look at difficult family dynamics in a way that is accessible and not overbearing, because I think it's very, very you have to be quite careful with middle grades. You can't just be overtly aggressive and scary, because they're not going to engage with books moving forwards. But you have to look at really important narrative structures and political commentary and kind of talk about the wider world and things that are happening internally, so that they are emotionally prepared to deal with that as adults, because they've read books and they've experienced literature and they've also watched films and theatre, etc. about it. So for that reason, 10 out of 10. Was I irritated that not a lot happened in the first half? Yes, but I really liked when the magic really started to kick in, the kind of magical creatures coming out of the ether, exploring more worlds within this world. It was a lot of fun for all of those reasons, and it got a very high rating because of it. Okay, officially halfway there. At book 5, we will be discussing, I've got James Acaster's Guide to Quitting Social Media, but I'm going to add, because I have read since then, James Acaster's classic Scrapes. James Acaster's Guide to Quitting Social Media I was gifted by Hannah from the Bookworm's Feast, so thank you very much, Hannah. I did start to vlog all of the gifted books that I was given, and this one came out very, very high, but unfortunately most of that video is just terrible quality, so I haven't shared it. But if I can find a clip that kind of covers my thoughts on what I liked about this, I will leave it here. Okay, excuse the dressing gown, it is chilly, but I have an evening to myself and I'm going to be starting James Acaster's Guide to Quitting Social Media. This was gifted to me by Hannah from The Bookworm's Feast, who is, I think, still a YouTube channel, but mainly a blog and Instagram page. The links will be down below. Hannah gifted this to me at Christmas, I believe. Merry Christmas, Hannah. Here's to 2024, and I, of course, couldn't resist grabbing a James Acaster book when I saw it. Hannah and I are both massive fans of James Acaster, but also stand-up comedy in general. And I love that. I have read already Classic Scrapes and Perfect Sounds Whatever, which are the other two books by James Acaster, but I did them both as audiobooks and they are narrated by James Acaster, so I think I'm going to listen to this one alongside with this book, but I have no doubt this is going to be a great read. I'm a big fan of social media, as you can tell. I'm on social media. I have no intention of quitting social media, but I will lap up anything James Acaster writes. So here's to starting what should be a very easy, gentle read. Okay, so I made a fair way through this one yesterday, but I only have like 100 or so pages left. So I thought I would give my general thoughts before I finish it, because I'm going to finish it at some point today. But I was just so tired yesterday that I didn't actually get a chance to finish it yesterday. So if you have seen James Acaster's repertoire, where he pretends to be a bunch of different people and he is like telling this narrative in a very specific way that is obviously not true to him but has instances of truth in it, then that's what this feels like. This feels like that kind of stand-up, which is really interesting, having read his two other books, because I read them kind of in the wrong order. Classic Scrapes he wrote first, then he did Perfect Sound Whatever, and then he did this. Those books show a really strong indication of where his stand-up comedy is. So Classic Scrapes was obviously very early in his career, where he was talking about silly things that had happened to him. Perfect Sound Whatever is when he was more getting into the things that he hyperfixates on, and this is where he has created these characters, these narratives that are, again, sprinkled with truth. There's instances where he talks about certain things in getting off social media that I'm like, I know this is based on like real things that have happened, like he's based that on experience, even though none of this is true. And I didn't realise it was going to be a fictitious thing, and it obviously doesn't read like it's fictitious. What's really interesting to me is the extreme lengths this version of James Acaster will go to avoid being on social media. And basically he talks about every single function that we use social media for that is just convenient, and then he finds the most inconvenient way to replace it, and it's just very funny. So it's things like he has started like 8 different businesses just so that he can replicate the sensations he gets when being on social media. For example, knowing more about people's babies than he ever cared to know, he sets up a creche to get food reviews and have people so he can take photos of people's food and stuff. He sets up a restaurant, like things like that. It's all very silly, it's all very comical, and it's a very gentle read. Like if you enjoy just general James Acaster stand-up, this is a really good time. It is not the book that I would recommend starting with if you have never read anything by James Acaster. I would definitely recommend Classic Scrapes as the first one, as an intro to his writing, or Perfect Sound Whatever if you enjoy non-fiction and you're not sure you want to get into comedy writing as such, because I think this one is so very distinctly James Acaster that unless you've tried something else that he's written or you really love his stand-up, the jokes just aren't going to land the same way, because this is where he has cultivated such a classic James Acasterian audience that it's not necessarily going to work for people as like an entry level to his comedy, because it's just weird and it's just kind of wonderful and silly, and I really like that. But that's because I really like his comedy. So I've got about an hour left of the audiobook. I will finish this today, but I'm feeling like this is going to be rocking between a 4.5 stars. But I'm going to leave the wrap up here basically and move on to the next book in the vlog, which I've yet to decide which one I'm going to pick up, but I will leave that to next time, Hannah. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this, and thank you very much, Hannah, for gifting this to me. What a great solid choice. So really enjoy his style of writing. If you're looking for some non-fictions that are funny, would definitely recommend. I feel like the Perfect Sound Whatever is probably more informative than these two are, but if you're looking for a really light, gentle read, or just something to give to your dad because he doesn't like reading fiction, these would be my recommendations for that. Okay, book 6. The Yellow Wallpaper. Now, this one was recommended to me by Olivia, and it is a short story or short novella kind of inspired by Mrs. Rochester from Jane Eyre. It is about a woman who goes mad and starts seeing things in the wallpaper, and was recommended to me because I love Mexican Gothic, and I loved it. Like, it was such a clever short story that I feel like, again, I want to take a copy and annotate it and really explore it, because the idea of female social repression and the idea of being locked away within ourselves and these worlds that we create, the magics that we associate with mental health when it comes to women in literature, is fascinating to me. And this is, again, a really great intro to classic literature and to Gothic literature if you would like to give either of those genres a go and you're not really sure where to start, because it is very, very accessible. The way it's written, you're just moving through diary entries, and it's insidious, it's dark, it's twisty, and it's a good time. And I've made it 19 minutes and 57 seconds before saying the phrase, "it's a good time," which I think is a personal best for me. Okay, next. Fence, Volume 5. I feel like I'm ticking off a variety of different genres, and I'm not mad about it. So, Fence Volume 5 is my most recent, I think Volume 6 may have just come out, most recent edition of Fence, which is where the boys from the boarding school, they're learning all about fencing, go on a fencing camp and start fighting against people that are so far out of their league that it's a little bit scary. And what I really, really enjoy is the romance that we know is coming is so close to being there. Like, it's so close, and there's yearning, and the boys are just really cute, and it's such a wholesome graphic novel. And I cannot believe that it was 5 years ago that Cerys bought me the first one. Like, Cerys has sent me on a journey without even knowing it. Like, this is one of my favourite graphic novel series, because it's so wholesome and fun, and there's, like, the characters are really funny, and it's all good. It's all good. Please go read Fence. Go read all of them. Read all of them. I actually have the 2 novels here that I keep meaning to put on my TBR and haven't. And that's on me. I need to read those. Okay, pick number 8 is The Crucible. Now, this was a reread for me and also a Patreon teapot pick, which Olivia from Olivia Savannah originally put in there for me. Now, I had bought this for myself because I wanted to write a play that felt like The Crucible but had a modern flair to it. And I'm going to have to read it again so that I can do that, because I have so many issues with the characters in this, and you're supposed to, right? This is a harsh critique not only of the Salem witch trials but of female repression, of how we look at something feminine and try to break it because it doesn't conform in the way we want it to. And my main issue is something that is always going to be an issue for me, and that is the sexual relationship between Abigail and what's his face, the main character, who's meant to be Putnam. I think it's Putnam. Whoever the guy is that's meant to be, like, the nice guy. The guy that is, like, running a farm and also sleeping with the woman that works there, but then is somehow the good guy at the end. That I have an issue with. And that fundamentally is what I have the issue with. Super, super dark, witchy vibes, gothic, play, great times. Once again, the issue isn't with the text. It's with me and the fact that I have such a visceral response to the text. But regardless, I'm going to have to read it again because I'm going to write the play. And it's not going to have sexual assault in, nor the sexual manipulation of a minor, because I can't deal with that. I can't. I didn't realise when I TBR'd it, or even when I bought it, that I would have such a visceral reaction to it, because it's not even remotely comparable to, like, Lolita or other books where men have sexual power over women, because in theory, Abigail's chill with it, except she's still a child, so I'm not chill with it. Let's move on swiftly before I start throwing things. Okay, the penultimate pick 9, we have Artemis, which was the last Andy Weir book that I read. Really, really enjoyed this. This is a heist in space. Lots of violence, lots of action, lots of drama. Could have done with, like, a romantic subplot, but again, that's just my preference. Really, really liked the way this story developed, and I feel like the way the relationships worked within the characters as they go through with this heist and they become a crew was really, really interesting and really, really fun. I can see why it is not everyone's favourite. I do think the reason people are so negative about this book is because it's a female character instead of a male character. I actually endorse that, obviously. But I think that there are a lot more opportunities for this character to take things a step further and to have higher drama and higher octane action because of that. But loved it, would recommend. One of many, many books that I would not have picked up a few years ago because I was still telling myself I hate sci-fi, and turns out I do not in fact hate sci-fi. Okay, the last pick of today's video. The Prince's Throne by Holly Black. I adored, devoured in a day, essentially, The Cruel Prince. I then really, really enjoyed The Wicked King, and I really, really enjoyed The Queen of Nothing. When it came to The Stolen Heir, didn't love it. Didn't love it. It didn't have the same passion, probably because it wasn't from the same perspective. I know loads of people have an issue with Jude being like a punch first, ask question later kind of girly. I love that. Love a messy character. Love a violent main character, especially when it's a her. Good for her. Really, really struggled with how docile the main character was trying to be in trying to contain her viciousness in the first book of this duology. Much preferred The Prisoner's Throne, where it is just a himbo simp trying to get his new family and his old family to get along without being murdered in their sleep by a vicious killer. Loved it. High octane action, banter, romance, interesting collection of fae, tick, 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 4 stars, had a great time. And there we have it. There are the 10... It's not 10 books, but certainly 10 picks from this month's wrap up. Let me know in the comments down below, are you more likely to pick any of these up now I've talked about them, or less likely? I really enjoy when people are like, yeah, I'm not reading that now, in my comments. I find that very funny. If you just want to leave a flower emoji in my comments down below to let me know you were here, feel free. Treat yourself to something from Waypoint because it supports me and my content. Check out the links down below because I have a Patreon now, and obviously I talked about all the videos that I was going to put down there before. Now's the time to go and watch them. And most importantly, have a nice day.